Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta. I'm Jezebel Anat. I'm your worship host for today, and we have several guests with us this morning. First, I'd like to introduce our guest musician is Hiroko Hogarth. And we also have a speaker, Joshua Eric Williams, who will be joining us via Zoom, and his topic is sound thinking. Josh is a disabled veteran from Carrollton, Georgia. He graduated from the University of West Georgia with a BA in sociology and a certificate in social work, an MA in nature writing, and an MFA in poetry from Western Colorado University. His poetry has appeared or is forthcoming in publications such as Measure, Frog Pond, Modern Haiku, Sonic Room, Rattle, Literary Matters, and many other print and online journals. In 2014, he won the Eclectic Poetry Prize. Recent honors include the selection of his poem Barriers for publication in an anthology of pandemic writing, The Great Isolation, and his collection, The Strangest Conversation, received an honorable mention in the Haiku Society of America's 2020 Merit Book Awards. He's currently studying for his Master's of Divinity in Unitarian Universalist Studies from United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities, and he's a member of the West Georgia Unitarian Universalists. So we'll look forward to hearing from him later today. I just have a couple of quick announcements. We normally have our pagan Vespers service on the 4th Sunday. This month it's on the 5th Sunday, so it is tonight in the sanctuary or on Zoom at 7 p.m. And we are celebrating the holiday of Lammas. And our chalice lighting words today are inspired by Lammas because this is a solar feast, it's a feast of harvest, and it is a reminder of the abundance of the earth and how much we depend upon the light of the sun, the soil, the wind, the rain, all the seeds that are growing. And I know many of you are gardeners. So this morning, we light our chalice as the light that is the eternal cycle, the revolution of the earth, the sun, the moon, and stars that all create the cycle of life which nourishes and sustains us. And our opening hymn is a familiar one. It's number 38, Morning Has Broken. So please rise in body or spirit, or both. is the time for our joys and sorrows.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris, and I'm one of the Pastoral Care Committee. Now is the time to come and share the joys and sorrows that we've had for the last week. And if you'll just come around here and state your name and your joy or sorrow. This part is not going to be recorded. It stays within the confines of our church.
And we do have a couple of young people in here, so we'll have a time for all ages. Would you like to come up? Would you like to come up? Let's gather around here for a moment. So you guys know it's the last day of July. And I hope you've had a nice summer playing and having fun, and congratulations on riding your bike. And this is another one of those turning points of the year where we're going from summer into fall. And it may not seem like that weather-wise, but you can start to see that the days are getting a little bit shorter. And are you guys going to be starting school in August or going back to school? Different school. So you guys will be back to school in a week, and that's your transition. After 2 days, okay, yeah, schools start differently, but usually in August, that's the time that we start to shift into fall mode and going back to school. So it was a little different for our ancestors. For many people, this was a harvest festival. This is the time of Lammas, which was an ancient pagan holiday, as well as became celebrated in the Christian calendar, and it means loaf mass. It's the celebration of the first grain harvest. And if you lived in a farm community where you didn't have distribution of food from all over the world, what you grew locally was really, really important. You got it. Yeah, we are very lucky that for the most part, we have food distribution. But this is one thing we've become really aware of with the pandemic and the situation in Ukraine, where a lot of the grain is not being exported, how much we depend on the earth and what we grow. Do you guys have gardens at your homes? Oh, you know this already. What are you growing? Yeah. Yeah, so you're at the point where you have a lot of tomatoes and then suddenly there's no more. And pepper is good. Mm-hmm. That's always the danger with growing things. You never know. And that is part of the lesson of Lammas, is that the earth is very, very, very abundant. And I know there are times in the summer where the joke is if you leave your car door unlocked, people will put zucchini in your back seat because they're trying to get rid of it. And then we get to the point where there is no more. So we are at a real balance where weather is nice now, there's a lot of abundance, but we know shortages are coming. So we have to think about what we preserve, storing and sharing with our friends, so that if, say, maybe somebody who doesn't have peppers, but maybe they have zucchini, so you swap, so you'll both have peppers and zucchini. Exactly, and that's, you guys know all about Lammas already. I thought I was going to teach you something, but you know it. So it's just being really aware of our balance with the land. Yeah, it's really good right out of the earth, isn't it? It's a lot better than going to get it in the store. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, it's not totally free because you probably have to get the seeds or the plants, and sometimes you have to do special soil or fertilizers and things, and it's work. So you're putting in the work to make sure it gets water and the right amount of shade and all that. But that's how you're working with your land to make things grow, and to feed yourself. And that is the basis of Lammas and the harvest and working with what we have. And another name for the harvest is Lughnasadh. And this was the Celtic sun god Lugh. He was also known as the many-skilled because he was a warrior, he could fight, he was a bard, he wrote poetry, he was a blacksmith so he could forge things, he was a craftsman so he could make things, he could cook. And you guys now, as you're going back to school, you're going to be learning more skills as you go into the next level of your classes and gaining skills, and you might be playing a sport or dancing. So it's also the time to think about what skills you're going to be gaining over the winter. Correct. Yeah, you're growing, you're increasing your skills. So that's what we've been talking about today. Thank you for coming down. Are you guys staying in the service or going back to your classroom? So parents, do we need to send them back or keep? I haven't seen Tom yet, so I think you guys are staying, but it's okay. You're welcome to stay and maybe you'll learn some more skills. So, but you guys are great with your gardening and understanding how we work with the earth. And that is our broader theme as we go into our time of meditation, is that very keen awareness of what we have and also the discernment in terms of how to use it. We're processing a lot these days. We're dealing with a lot of technology and so much political stuff. So for a moment, I would invite you to get quiet in your seat, both feet on the ground. Relax, unclench your jaw. I don't know about you, but when I get busy with a lot of things, I suddenly find myself really tight here. So if you want to take a second and massage it a little bit and notice, are these muscles tight? Am I clenching? So consciously relax your jaw. Let it be a little bit slack for a moment. And if you'd like to close your eyes so you can tune in, and just notice how you're feeling, feet on the ground, getting that sense of the top of your head really stretching up towards the sky and towards the sun, feeling yourself in this balanced place between the sky, the sun, the solar celestial realms, and below you, feet rooted in the earth, which now is green and growing and has the power of our sustenance. And we are between earth and sky. Many ancient peoples were very aware of this balance of land and people, for we know that we have to take from the land in order to eat. We have to kill these lovely fruits and vegetables and sometimes the animals and their products in order to survive. And learning not to take too much, not to destroy, to make sure to plant more and to leave some and to cherish this planet that we live on. So we're going to go into a few moments of silence. So what I would like you to think about is the ground around your own home, the specific soil that nurtures you, for we are all people of our places. I know many of you grow things. Some of you may not have that skill or time, but maybe there's a patch of grass around, maybe there's some flowers. So whatever is around your space, connect with that energy of your home. welcomed, we have gathered in this place. This is also a sacred space, this sanctuary where we have been worshiping for many years. I'd like to welcome any newcomers who may be here for the first few times, and forgot to say this in the welcome, but please do fill out the visitor information card so we can be in touch with you, and please join us after the service for coffee and conversation. As you also know, we have some beautiful outdoor areas. We have a labyrinth, we have a memorial garden, we have beautiful trees, we have flowers. This is also a sacred space that part of our work here is to keep this place going. And as earth is the element of the material, so we ask for your material contributions. Yes, that means money, because that's green too, to please help us to keep this sacred space, to keep this sanctuary for seekers that welcomes people of all paths, knowing that we need not think alike to love alike. Our ushers could please come forward. We thank all of you for these gifts that sustain our work. Now it's time to welcome our speaker, Joshua Eric Williams. Call out our tech people. Make sure we get him spotlighted.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
I think it needs to be a little louder. Louder.
How about now?
We did test it this morning, but
Can you hear?
okay.
How about now?
Yes, Josh, try again, please.
All right, can you hear me?
Is it loud enough in here? And are the Zoom people hearing him?
Catherine says the Zoom sound is coming through perfectly.
Okay, Zoom is coming through, but it seems a little low in here, right? Yeah.
Should I just speak louder?
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Okay, I'll just talk at this volume if that works.
cool.
All right, excellent. So, good morning. I really appreciate y'all having me. So, my name is Joshua Eric Williams. You can call me Josh. Before I get started, I'd just like to say, so I'm Cherokee, and so in this sermon, I'm going to use the term "going to water," and that's really just like a purification practice. And honestly, you can do something as little as being in a shower and thinking or saying the things that you're thankful for during the day. A lot of my own religious beliefs focus on what are called the old ways, and ultimately it depends on balance and community. A lot of what pagan belief is centered on and around. So it was perfect to have me here today during this celebration of Lunacy. So yeah, I'll get started. Sound thinking, balance, and volume. A lifetime ago, when I dreamed about hurling fastballs for the Atlanta Braves, I'd considered never talking again. Television's depictions of monks and their vows of silence inspired me. I imagined a world where no teacher or classmate would ask me questions. Where's your jacket? Why were you out last week? They made me lie in a way, and being raised a Baptist, I remember thinking that my responses to those nasal-toned interrogations would lead me to hell. I fantasized that such an unanswered world would be quieter, that I could be honest through my clothes and context alone. The inquisitors already knew the answers anyway. To me, a trailer park kid with a tendency to daydream, such a place didn't seem possible, but I could imagine it. In fact, I tried the experiment several times with very little success. On my best attempt, I completed an entire 24 hours of not talking when I was at home sick with the flu. But doing what a third grader with little else to do or expected of him would, living in his fantasy world and snacking on whatever he could find, probably a mayonnaise sandwich. I learned nothing from that experience except that my mother was just as quiet. Being so young, I thought she was enjoying a break from my questions. But, later on in my life, I realized that she was going through a lot herself. As a teen, I tried the quiet game, but an affinity for silence led to misunderstandings, fights at school, and to be thought of as, oh no, a boring, mopey introvert. Cue up the Cure. Now where's my nail polish? Research has shown that since the 1950s, the noise is a killer. High blood pressure and heart disease have been linked to noise pollution, which consists of the modern cacophony of traffic, construction equipment, airports, in-laws, etc. Like garbage piling in landfills, we don't know what to do with our noise. So much so that we spend millions on noise-canceling headphones alone. Nor do we know much about its long-term effects on our bodies. What does the endless chatter falling out of our own mouths, like chewed up food, do to us? Yes, endless chatter, like a growing city's noise, causes confusion and contributes to stress and anxiety. But these are the effects of having a consciousness that Buddhists would call the monkey mind, the ceaseless cycling of thoughts that have us obsessing over our self-worth, our productivity, and those questions we ask ourselves just before we fall asleep. What if this heartburn is really a heart attack? Of course, the monkey mind also helps us plan and learn, which makes it neither good nor bad. But just as the body needs exercise and rest, the mind also needs to train and recuperate to allow survival to help us live well. No major Christian sect, as it turns out, practices a vow of silence. They have their quiet times. Lutherans and Catholics practice something called the Great Silence, which requires quiet for a 24-hour period from those who have taken vows to do so. But that's nothing close to never talking again. In Buddhism, a monk may take a vow of silence, but because of the requirement to teach Buddhist doctrine, keeping quiet doesn't ensure enlightenment. Even if such practices are temporary, research has shown that monks keeping vows of silence have a lower incidence of high blood pressure and have better overall health. However, how much of that relates to a healthy lifestyle in general, one of balance, is something to consider. What's the turnover rate for monks these days? However, psychological research on social isolation, which seems to be a logical consequence of not talking to people, finds that such deprivation can lead to higher risks for obesity, heart disease, smoking, stress, and dementia in older people. In fact, many mental health experts recommend attaching oneself to a community, whether that be via church, an art group, athletics. That they're all beneficial. However, people who are mute, deaf, hard of hearing, or those who stutter often face social isolation resulting from complications in communicating with those without such challenges. So building relationships outside their community can be daunting. This can contribute to depression and anxiety. My brother, who since childhood stuttered, isolated himself to his room for years and didn't talk to people unless it was absolutely unavoidable, because he didn't want others finishing his sentences or calling him the R word. Although social media and communication technologies have improved some aspects of such barriers, it hasn't improved the way society treats people with disabilities, and those living without unabated expression underscore how privileged I am. I speak when I want, and even if my voice is twangy, it gets my point across eventually. So Josh, you ask, what does this really mean? If our noisy world is killing us and not talking to people is hurting us, what are we to do? Okay, so first off, thank you for the question. And secondly, the answer is found in a life of balance. Turn off your devices and get out in nature for however long you can. Find meditative moments in your day, even if it's for a few minutes. Go to water, whether that's taking a shower or going to a lake, and take a moment there to give thanks to the Creator or to however you conceive of the universe we evolved from. Find silence and peace. A 2013 study in brain structure and function describes how researchers found that 2 hours of silence results in brain cell regeneration in rat mice. Considering that the experiment originally set out to find ranges of sound, biased, right? That would contribute to neuron growth, but observed that quietness led to sustained brain cell production instead. Silence seems to promote healing, not bickering and the sound of traffic. Brain mapping studies have also found that a day's sensory data coalesces in our brains and reconfigures during sleep, which is when we're at our quietest, giving us new ideas. So silence, as much as rest allows, also helps to produce original thought. Writers, musicians, and visual artists understand its power. Mozart noted, the music is not in the notes, but in the silence between. And John Cage, another composer, took the observation to its extreme, 4 minutes, 33 seconds, in which he uses an audience ambient noise to fill the composition's 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Susan Sontag, in conversation with Valerie and Rilke, thought of silence as a zone of meditation, preparation for spiritual ripening, an ordeal that ends in gaining the right to speak. And so I think this is also why us use meditation during our services. And the late English language haiku poet, celebrated editor of modern haiku, put it this way: another reason for the brevity of haiku is that more words, the more distance, the more silence, the more proximity. So everything divides silence, and silence divides everything. Sound and soundlessness produce a balance between written word, it's quiet, it's white space, synapses fire and create something new. I don't advocate for everyone to shut their mouth, but the research suggests that we should sometimes. If not to hear each other better, then to allow ourselves to think, to heal, to observe the world undistracted by our ceaseless narratives and stress filled projects that we usually take as progress. Today and hopefully many days to come, I pray that we may all find our pauses, our healthy silences, and give ourselves the rest that will allow us to flourish. Amen. Amen. And I'm going to follow that up with a poem, sermon and counted verse. We got a world full of gods and no one to worship them. Kitchens stocked with food we don't eat. The trash that's not trash we dump because we can. Stopping on a dime breaks we don't use. Red lights we don't see. Broken laws and friends. We hate everything until the good we see seems as dry and plastic as the breaking news update we watch anyway. We say what we don't mean to and swallow what we shouldn't. The more we talk about change, the more it reflects the way we grew up. We buy low and sell high. Damn, we are good. Our ugly brains make beauty out of death to live. If only we could stop. We got a world full of gods, but they'll rot away on the frames we fashion for our future faiths. From drive-through to delivery to cans of instant blessings, our charismatic leaders tempt us with a world that was never for them to package or for us to buy. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Can you hear me?
I think we heard him, right? I could hear him. Question. Yeah. Sure. Is it okay? You sent me a copy of your sermon. Is it okay to share it?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
You want a copy of the poem as well?
Sure, please.
Okay, I'll send that as well.
Okay. Yeah, and I can send it to Jack. Anyone else want it? Okay. I may need a list. I'll get that after the service. I'll put it on Realm. That's a good. We have technology, which I am still struggling with.
I see a question from Catherine on Zoom. It says, "Do you meditate every day?" I try. As a poet, I have to write, and writing is a meditative practice for me. I have to empty my thoughts to get to a creative headspace where it's not my own perception filtered through the words. Instead, it's something I can find that's more universal. Otherwise it's therapy writing in a way, because I've been through a lot in my life. So if I don't empty my thoughts before or during the writing process, it'll become whiny and it'll become about me and my problems. And while those things can connect with other people, it's not art necessarily. So, I mean, yeah, painful experiences can be art, but we have to find ways of divorcing ourselves from that experience so that it can apply to other people. And it comes from a place of empathy for others and not for sympathy for myself. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. So it's not just self-indulgent writing, but actual creativity that a lot of people can connect with.
Absolutely. And I don't mean to denigrate or belittle personal writing or therapeutic writing whatsoever. It's just the two are different, and oftentimes personal writing can lead to great works of art. You know, but it takes time and it takes willingness to distance yourself from the experience so you can work with it.
Definitely. Any other questions live or on Zoom? Okay. Cool.
Well, I mean, I'd like to pose a challenge to everybody is to think about ways that you find balance in your own lives. And what are your meditative practices? How do you find balance in your own life? I'm sure we all have our ways of reaching some sort of equilibrium, or at least trying to do so. Right? I wonder if any do y'all normally do that? Talk about your own personal practices.
We do have a meditation group that Chris Garcia and Melanie Roberts lead on Monday nights in person and on Zoom. So those two are over there if anyone wants to contact them about the meditation group. And in our pagan circles, we have times of meditation and different types of meditation. Sometimes it's creative, dance, song, as well as just the quiet time we have in the services.
That's a wonderful service to provide to your congregation. I think it's invaluable, really. I mean, we need to have ways of decompressing because we live in such a pressurized environment.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything they wanted to add or question or? No one else on Zoom? Marika. Josh, Marika was asking about to elaborate on what you said about the brain cells being stimulated during periods of quiet.
Yeah, so it was a study done by Brain Function and Structure, I think it was called. But yeah, they concluded that quietness creates more regeneration in brain cells than any range of sound. They were originally looking for ranges of sound that would promote brain cell healing or brain cell regeneration, and they found that it didn't work, but silence was better. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, Marika was saying that there are some, when Alzheimer's or in diseases where the brain starts to degenerate, maybe a periods of silence could help that.
Absolutely.
I'm just repeating since he can't hear you. Anyone else? Or? Okay.
Oh, can you hear me?
Sure.
This is Natalia. I'm going to keep my camera off because I don't feel great and I'm in a hotel room out of town. But I did want to mention also to people that John Black and I, who are members of the congregation, co-founded a Buddhist group years ago in Augusta that also has opportunities for meditation. It's specifically Buddhist, so it's a little more focused than the group that meets at the church. But if you want information about our meeting times, I'll put the link in the chat, but it's just sebuddhist.org. For Southeastern Buddhist community. But I wanted to ask Josh a question. I found when I was going through my chemo and cancer treatment that it was very easy to step back and let go of activities and obligations, and that people kind of understood that and were willing to let me step back. And there was a book by Thich Nhat Hanh that was really meaningful to me during that time called Silence. The Power of Quiet in a World Full of Noise. Wonderful book. But I wondered, as soon as my treatment was over, kind of the world expected me to step back into my usual activities, and I kind of felt some guilt about not stepping right back in. And so I just wondered if you could talk about how you work with that that sense of maybe guilt that you might have when you step back from obligations and activities.
Yeah, the world expects a lot out of you. People, the first thing they ask you is, what do you do for a living? Right? And especially in our society, because people are judged by how productive they are. And so I think we have to find a way not to allow ourselves to feel like our value depends on our capacity to generate money or to profit someone else. I grew up exceedingly poor, and so people were constantly judging me based on the clothes that I wore or the way what I could afford to do and not do, and it created in me this kind of resilience where I really don't care what people think. Well, I do care to some extent, but there's a thick skin, calloused skin that I earned during childhood. That's how I deal with something like that. With my own disability, it's not visual. You can't see it, and so people look at me and they'll see me with my disabled veterans tag, and I'll walk into the store and they don't see my disability, and so they just some people will judge you for that. But a quick conversation with if a person has the audacity, the temerity, I should say, to approach me about something like that, then they'll get an earful. But how do I do that? I mean, I don't know. How do women survive constant harassment from men, on a daily basis? I guess it's something you have to learn to live with. It's something that you adapt to. Hopefully, one thing's for certain though: you have to be fiercely protective of your own time because you have so little of it, right? And so when someone tries to tell you what you should be doing with your one life, your time, then I think it's time to step in and tell them to kindly go away.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josh. So I think it's time we move on to our closing hymn, which is popular around here and I think really fits in with the theme. It's Blue Boat Home, number 1064 in the Teal Hymnal, and we'll be putting the lyrics up on our screen. I'll give the tech people a second to get to that, and Hiroko's getting the music. Yay! All right. Yay. Please rise in body or spirit or both.
Leaning over the edge in wonder.
give thanks to the waves upholding me. Hail the great wind surging beyond. Read the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my new home. We sail on our blue boat of the sea, the sacred waters and the tides of life around us, as we are solid on the land beneath the sun. Let us keep this spirit of centering as we are at the Lammas tide. We are all in our transitions, moving in slowly from summer into fall. Yes, the Halloween decorations are out at Michael's now. So some of us are looking forward to cooler days and breezes and all the fall colors and flavors. And let us still enjoy what is left of the summer and make good use of our harvest. Blessed be. Now, Spirit of Life.
Thanks again to Josh and Hiroko.